Big emphasis of my system is precision striking and technical excellence and tactical ability. What does tactical mean? Tactical mean to be able to go above and beyond what you can do as an individual, right? If you look at the military, they don't send one guy out there like in the movies. They don't send out Arnold Schwarzenegger and say, go out there and rescue that guy. Come on, Rambo. Need you to break into that base by yourself. No backup, no support systems, no nothing, right? So you're supposed to be intelligent enough to know, can you become a victim of a violent crime? Absolutely you can. Does that mean you're supposed to wait till it happens to decide what to do? No, you're not. You're supposed to be prepared in advance. You need to know when to make a tactical withdrawal. You need to know when and what supports you have. So in my system, we look at three things. Number one, know yourself. That means know your limitations. If you haven't been able to kick somebody in the head, don't try it in a street fight. Right? This ain't a Rocky movie. You don't say, well, I ain't been able to do this Karate Kid one-legged crane technique for a whole 2 hours, and now that we're down to the wire, I'm going to execute it and it's going to work just perfectly. No. If this is not part of your natural movement, you don't put it in when your life is on the line, when the life of your loved ones are on the line. So you need to, number one, know yourself. That's why you do the push-ups, the sit-ups, the running. That's why you do the 100 kicks every day, the 1,000 punches. That's why you do these things, because you need to be able to say, you know what, my spinning hook kick isn't where it should be right now. That's not something I'm going to go to. You know what, my grappling game is not that strong. That's not something I'm going to go to. So that's number one. Number two, know your opponent. When you assess your opponent, you should be able to look them up and down and experience. From me being in front of hundreds, if not thousands, of different opponents, you should be able to say, well, look, his hands come all the way down to his knees. This dude got a long reach. Even though he might be 5'7", he can have the actual reach of a 6-footer. That's very possible. You look at him, way he moves. Look at his stance. Does he have a narrow stance on the ball of his feet? He's a boxer. Does he have a wide stance? He's kind of flat-footed. Could be Shotokan, could be a southern system of Kung Fu. Is this a guy that's just standing normal, but he keeps fidgeting with his waist or keeps his hand on his pocket? This dude could have a gun. Those are the type of things that you're supposed to instantly observe before the fight happens. Know your opponent. Look at them. Know their anatomy, their physiology, right? Don't just randomly punch people. If you're used to punching with a glove on, then you haven't implemented precision striking into your system, and that is a great disadvantage in a street fight. Not a problem in a sport fight, but in a street fight, you need to know what it feels like to make bone-on-bone contact. If my knuckle hits somebody's elbow, it doesn't feel the same with hand wraps and a glove on as it does in a street fight when I'm nervous and my adrenaline is pumping different. It's not the same thing. You need to know what that feels like. So you need to be able to say, when I throw a punch, how am I going to hit the body? How do I make sure this knuckle goes in between the ribs? How do I make sure this knuckle makes contact with the tip of the mandible? How do I make sure this Phoenix eye fist goes right into the eye socket instead of bouncing off his forehead and messing up my finger? You need to be able to practice and drill those things and have the drills that enhance those things. So number one, know yourself. That comes from training. Number two, know your opponent. That comes from sparring hundreds, if not thousands of times, to where you can look at somebody's stance, the thickness of their wrist, the thickness of their hands. Let me give you an example. You look at my hand. My hand is the size of my entire head. That's a big oven mitt hand, but that's not the size of my hand. You want to know how big my hand is? This is the bone structure. That's my bones. My hand is actually this big. But when I let it go and you see the amount of muscle surrounding my hand, like a wrestler, like a power lifter, it almost doubles in size. You should be able to look at someone's hand and see that and know these are the limitations. This is their strengths. I don't want somebody to grab me who has an oven mitt for a hand, because their grip is going to be like steel. But if somebody got long fingers and little skinny hands, you also don't want them poking at you. But you can also turn the body a certain way. When them skinny fingers poke you, you break the fingers. That's stuff you're supposed to know before the first punch is ever thrown. Number three, know your environment. Know your environment, right? What does that mean? If I'm at a black tie restaurant and there are armed security guards all around, probably not the best place to get into a wrestling match. You're going to jail. But if I'm in downtown LA at 2 o'clock in the morning waiting at the bus stop, and a bunch of meth heads decide that they're going to try and rob me, it's all over but the screaming, because I know where I am. Walking through the hood is going to be a different fight than if I'm walking through Beverly Hills. Not because of the opponents, but because of the environment. My instructor told me a long time ago, he said, be the one to go home. Now, as a young man, be the one to go home. Make sure you win all your fights so you can go home, talk about it, brag about it. When I got older, got arrested. When that happened, I was able to say, you know what? I didn't get to go home. And I had to start thinking differently, right? I had to be able to say, you know what? Then I grew up, got a family. I got to be the one to go home. You know, most of the people, when you come online, the people who are talking trash are the people who have nothing. What do I mean by that? You got two people sitting online talking trash all day. You got old people who did something back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago, and now they want to run down everything that's happening today because they're not doing anything anymore. And then you got young people who haven't done shit, and they're steady talking about the theory of how tough they think they are without having ever done anything. They haven't seen combat in the military. They haven't been in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 street fights. They haven't been in prison and had to survive. It's just a bunch of little new booty 20-year-olds and 15-year-olds talking about what they think because they've been on social media running their mouth back and forth with people who have the theory of fighting, but no actual practical application, no actual experience, no apprenticeship, if you will. So the three things you need to know before you go into a physical confrontation: know yourself. Should I even take this fight? Or should I do a tactical withdrawal? Know your opponent. Is this a winnable situation? Is this somebody I can beat? And if I'm going to beat them, how would I do it? Now, what does that mean? Let's get into the techniques there. If I'm trying to get into somebody and beat them, and I'm looking at their advantages, everybody has strengths and weaknesses, advantages and disadvantages. What you want to do with a person is take them out of their comfort zone. Like I said before, I look at a person, I can tell if you're a boxer. If you're a boxer, it's about to be a kicking game all day long. And my kicks are going to beat your punches because you'll never be close enough to hit me. It's the reason why you see the heavyweight champions are all over 6'3". Go look at them. Lennox Lewis, the Klitschko brothers. Like when you look at the champions, you don't see nobody in there. Oh, heavyweight champion of the world, David Toa. When David Toa fought Lennox Lewis, he couldn't touch him. David Toa was a great heavyweight. Too short. Too short. You aren't going to do nothing out there in the heavyweight division. You need to lose some weight, drop down some divisions. Why? You're too big a difference in the reach, right? There have been a couple of heavyweights that have been able to deal with that. You look at Joe Frazier, you look at Mike Tyson. But even those guys were 5'10", right? So if you're 5'6" and the guy in front of you is 6'3", don't believe because you know karate, that's an automatic win for you. It's not. Right? So know your opponent. You might have to say, you know what? I need to smother his moves, go straight into trapping and grappling range. Or you might say, you know what? I need to develop destructions, right? I did a video earlier on destructions talking about how if somebody punches at you and if somebody's kicking at you, how do you attack the arms and legs that are coming at you? But you better be real precise and good with your strikes because when somebody throws a jab, boom, that fast. Or somebody throws a straight right, boom, that fast. You don't have time to try and figure out how to strike their biceps correctly, right? The easiest thing to do is to rush in and smother. But then you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position because, like I said, if you're talking about a size disparity that big, and we know trapping and grappling is about dominating through leverage and strength, you might not be in a position to win a strength contest with someone who's 5 inches taller and outweighs you by 50 to 100 pounds. But that depends on what? Know yourself. I can actually go into trapping range with a 300-pound person because I've done it multiple times. There are some people who go into their boxing gym or go into the MMA gym, or especially women, and spar on a regular basis with people who are larger and stronger than them. So they develop a system where they're perfectly comfortable going, okay, I'm going to come right up here on you, and you're still going to lose. There's some people who can do that. Is that you? Know yourself. Know your opponent. Third, know your environment. If you're a Taekwondo stylist, if you're a Capoeira stylist, and you're very good with kicks, that's amazing and wonderful. But if you're on grass and it's 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Somebody waited in your front yard you doing that morning commute, when you go to throw that spin kick on that wet grass, you're going to slip and fall. I don't care how good you are. You're going to slip and fall. And when you go down, do you have a ground game? Do you have a way of getting up quickly? Do you know your yukimi to roll up? Answer for most people in Taekwondo and Capoeira, the answer is no. And so you put yourself in a very bad position because you didn't take under consideration your environment. When you train constantly in the same environment, right? I'm constantly training in the dojo or the octagon or the boxing ring, or you might master that environment. But environmental factors greatly contribute to your ability to win a fight.